Welcome back to another Ask George. This is a segment where I take questions from the audience, but these are a bit more personal because the questions are submitted via video on my website, CryptosRUs.com. And those of you guys that do want to submit your own questions, you can do so. But we have 3 today. Last week was the very first one. We only had 1 question. Today, I'm going to try to answer 3 questions in this video. And they are important ones. 2 of them are very important. 2 of them I do get asked all the time, but I'm going to spend a little more time answering these ones. And there's one personal one that I'll answer as well. So hopefully you guys enjoy. And again, those of you guys that do want to get a more personal and longer answer from me, make sure you submit your question on CryptosRUs.com. All right. So for the very first question, let's take a look. Last week, I blurred out the person, Sergio, and, there was really no need to blur these people out because they're submitting a video anyway, so I'm not going to blur it out anymore. And many people complain about it for no reason. The first question is from Alex, so let's take a listen.
Hey, George, thanks for all the great content. I have a question about taking profits on Bitcoin, assuming somebody like myself has some Bitcoin, some altcoins. If this bull run plays out the way a lot of people think, and sometime before the end of 2025, we have a great opportunity to take profits from altcoins and Bitcoin also pumps. How high would Bitcoin have to go for you to think it's a good idea to take some profits from Bitcoin as well as altcoins? Like if it went to 200,000 or 300,000, would it be smart to take some profits and then plan on buying back in when things go down, assuming they do go down? Or is it better just to keep your average as low as possible on Bitcoin? And if not, is it a good idea to wait at all to buy Bitcoin, or should you just take your altcoin profits and just immediately start DCAing into Bitcoin as long as it's under $1 million? Just trying to look forward here. And also it's nice to think about this since it's a positive hypothetical outcome. Thank you for answering my question. Cheers.
All right. So this, I think it's like a 2-parter. And I think this is very important. A lot of people ask me about the top all the time, and also when to take profits, right? And I think Alex also asked about when is a good time to circle altcoin profits, if there are any, into Bitcoin. Relates to really how high Bitcoin is going to go. Previous cycles, especially the first few, really no one had any idea. Okay. Obviously, after the first one in 2013, we hit a high of 1,000. No one knew it was going to go that high. The second one, we went up to 20,000. Some people predicted it. We had some metrics, had some charts, but still, mostly it was just FOMO driven. The last cycle that we had in 2021, that's where we had a lot more metrics, we had a lot more charts, and we had a little bit more of worldwide adoption and a little more maturity, right? But still, even with everything, a lot of people predicted that Bitcoin would go to 100,000 last cycle. Didn't happen. We ended up at 69,000. And plus, there are a lot of macro stuff and also other stuff that was happening, obviously with like FTX and the Black Swan events and stuff like that. The Fed raising rates around that time. The war in Ukraine, with the war with Ukraine and Russia happening. There are external factors that is out of our control, right? So it's very hard to predict the top. But based on a 4-year cycle, and I know most of you guys know about that, we could kind of make an estimate that, it's about like a year and a half after the halving event is usually when Bitcoin tops out. And considering that we had our halving event right around, I think, May of last year, we would assume that the cycle ends at the top of this year, which is, around November, December at this point, right? And there are a lot of, again, metrics and charts and predictions. that make a case for Bitcoin to be around $250,000. Some people have predicted higher, but I think consensus, a lot of smart people have come out and said they believe with everything that's going on, with the institutional buying, with all the macro conditions that's driving people to Bitcoin, we should hit anywhere between 200 and 250,000. So that's where I still think we will end up. Now, when should you start taking profits? And should you take out everything or just some of it? It's hard to say, right? Even though there are a lot of predictions that Bitcoin will be at 200, 250,000, maybe it doesn't go there. Maybe, again, there's some other external factors that play into this. Like right now, we have this new war happening in the Middle East. Who knows? Maybe Bitcoin only tops out at 150,000 or 175,000. Or it could top out even higher and maybe go to 300, 500,000. We don't know, right? So for me, my profit-taking strategy is going to be different this time around versus previous cycles, because now I'm a little bit more mature, a little bit more educated, and my views on Bitcoin has become even stronger. So with all that said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for this next leg up. Okay, if you look at how Bitcoin's been moving this cycle, we make these new highs, we hit this new level, and then we like stall at that level for a little bit, maybe like 3-4 months. And then with that level, we may see choppiness up and downs, and then eventually we're ready, we make a next leg up, the stair step thing, but it takes months. So I believe that we're at the cusp of that next leg. It's soon, but I don't know when it's going to come. But I think that next leg is going to carry us to about like the 130s to 150s, somewhere around there. I personally am going to start taking profits starting from there on out, because I think there's a chance that maybe that's the top, although I really don't believe it. I think there's a small chance of that. But regardless, I'm going to start taking out money and making sure that I have enough on the side to prepare for anything, right? To continue my DCAing, to prepare for these choppiness that may be coming after the next level, and preparing for anything else, maybe major dips and stuff like that come. Because also, if you look at history, whenever we do approach the top, we go very fast and then kind of like the bubble burst, right? So I just want to make sure that I'm ready. I don't want to be caught off guard. I don't know where the top is going to be, when it's going to come, or if there's any external factors. I'm just going to start taking profits just to be sure, right? It doesn't mean everything, but I'm going to start taking out a little bit more. I've recommended in the past people hold about 20, 25, 30% in cash, which I think is a decent amount, okay? But for me, once we get up to that 150 level and beyond, I'm going to start increasing that. Okay, maybe go from 25 to 30, or 30 to 35, 35 to 40. It really depends on how much cash you have. If you have no cash at all, you're 100% in, then it's a great opportunity to start building that cash pile as we go higher. Because who knows? From the 150 level, we may shoot up to 175, 200 very, very quickly, because we only have 6 months left in this year. And if you look at the bull run, normally speaking, the parabolic phase, the banana zone, comes in very fast towards the end of the year. So once we hit that 150, and maybe let's say that happens next month in July, we may be hitting that 200, the next leg after that, within a month or two. It could be really, really quick. But then if it's that quick, we also come down very quickly from that level too. So for me, I'm going to start taking profits a little bit more. Basically, how I'm doing it is just making sure my cash pile is bigger, starting from the 150 level and beyond. And once Bitcoin goes above to like 175, then I'm going to make that cash pile even bigger. So if I went from 25 to 30, I'm going to go 35 to 40. Okay? And then if we go up to 200,000, I'm going to increase it again. And I'm going to keep increasing it the higher we go. So by the time we actually do hit top, where we don't know what level, but when we get there, my cash pile should be pretty significant, maybe 50% plus in cash. And that's how I want to do it, because if we do come down again, we follow previous cycles where we come down 80%, then I'll have at least 50% and beyond in cash waiting to DCA, bring that cost average down, right? And if we don't, let's say we just continue forward and we have a super cycle and we just keep going, like maybe we hit 250 and then we come back down like 10, 15%, then we keep going, and we don't have that crypto winter, it's still fine. We will always have some kind of significant dip or choppiness or sideways movement, right? As long as you have that cash pile, you can continue to load up and DCA over time. You won't be able to take advantage of the same kind of discounts we had in previous cycles where Bitcoin went down 80%. But that doesn't mean we can't have another like 20% dip, a 30% dip, even 10% dips. They're significant. And, having that cash pile is going to be very beneficial, right? So that's my profit taking schedule. And am I ever going to sell out my entire amount of Bitcoin? The answer is no. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to sell out everything. I'm always going to keep a majority, not majority, like I will always keep a solid portfolio of Bitcoin for sure. Because I believe even the top, okay, even whatever top we get to, is not the ultimate top for Bitcoin. I feel like I'm in Sailor's camp. I feel like Bitcoin every cycle is only going to get bigger. Obviously, the growth is going to stall out because of diminishing returns, because how big Bitcoin is. But every cycle, it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So I will always keep a large portion of my portfolio in Bitcoin, and I'll hold that forever. But I want to make sure as we move to the top, I prepare myself, make sure I have enough cash on the side to be prepared for anything that may be coming. And that's it. That's going to be my strategy. So, and then lastly, you asked about alts, right? Are you going to, or when should you think about rotating alts profits into Bitcoin? It really depends. This cycle, alts obviously have not been doing well, especially compared to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's performance has been absolutely spectacular, but not for alts. We are still below our January high for the most part and way below 2021 highs. I think towards the end of this year, things will change. We'll get an altcoin season. But until then, there's not too much worry about taking profits and rotating in Bitcoin because Bitcoin has been so strong, right? So we'll get to that when we get to that.
Hey, what's up, George? My name is Rick. I've been watching your videos for a really long time. It's clear to me that you understand blockchain utility, you understand meme coins, you understand, I think more importantly, the communities for these crypto projects. I was wondering, do you ever do any kind of consulting services for projects entering the space?
Ricky, thank you for your compliments. Thank you for being a long-time watcher and supporter. To answer your question, I have done so a little bit, not as a real consultant, but more of as an advisor. I have been added to several projects early 2024 and in previous cycles as an advisor, and that's where I utilize my knowledge and help them with either economics or connections or anything else that they may need help with. I've done that in the past. I don't really do that anymore because, quite honestly, I just don't have enough time. I want to make sure I have enough time for myself, for the family, and also I have to dedicate a vast majority of my time to, obviously creating really good content and also other endeavors that I'm doing, growing the CRE brand. So if it's a really good opportunity, I'll do it and I'll listen. But for the most part, I've been passing on those opportunities and just making sure I concentrate on what's important right now.
Hey, George, my question is this. If Bitcoin goes into a super cycle, like a lot are saying, what happens to the top 10 alts in that situation and alts in general? Do they continue to rise or do they go into that bear market as normal while Bitcoin continues to rise?
So this is an interesting question. A lot of people have also been asking about this. Basically, this relates to what's going to happen to alts this cycle. Okay, this cycle obviously is very different, led by Bitcoin, but led by institutions. So all previous cycles, when Bitcoin rises up, is led by Bitcoin, but primarily dominated by retail investors. Okay, retail investors, whales, and so forth. But now this cycle, yes, we're led by Bitcoin, but we're led not by retail. Actually, all the metrics and stats show that retail has been sitting on the sidelines. We are led by the big institutions, the ETFs, sailors of the world, and that's why Bitcoin is so strong and alts are not, because there's no money flowing out of the Bitcoin right now, right? And previous altcoin cycles, you saw money come out of Bitcoin into the alts, and that's where we have everything blowing up. This cycle, we don't really have that. We had little stints of mini altcoin season, and that's where I think like retail and casual investors, came back in because they were excited about Bitcoin. They came back in, but then as soon as we hit turbulence, they all pull out. That's why altcoins continue to get weaker, it seems like, and Bitcoin diamonds continue to go up. So if you're looking at the top 10 alts, I think if you minus the stable coins, you're left with basically 8, and you subtract Bitcoin as 7, right? Almost all the top ones are going to get their own ETFs. I think that's going to be a huge thing for them. That's going to separate them. They already have large communities. They have a big, investor base. Their development base is huge as well. A lot of them do have a lot of activity going on. But I think the ETFs are going to make a big difference. I think once we're in that real bull mode again and momentum swing upwards, a lot of people wanted FOMO. And if there's another avenue for Wall Street FOMO with those ETFs, I think it's going to be absolutely huge. So I think within the top 10, you're going to see them do well. They're going to go back to their previous high. They're going to break it and go beyond. So I think, what I consider the big caps, which is basically the top 10, and it goes a little bit beyond the top 10, I think they will do well. How much better will they do versus Bitcoin is unknown because of how strong Bitcoin is. Previous cycles, these alts went up multiples of Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin went up 2, 3x, these would go up like 5, 10, 15, 20x. The top 10, I'm not so sure they will do extremely well, but I do think they will outperform Bitcoin at the very least. So Bitcoin from here on out goes up a 2x, going to 200,000. I do believe like ETH could still do like a 3x, and Solana and others could still do a 4 or 5x, and so you're still gonna get multiple effects. But like, do I see Solana doing a 10x or ETH doing a 10x? No, I do not. But outside of the top 10, you get into like the mid caps and small caps and micro caps. That's where it's iffy. I'm just not so sure. Things in the past, for when altcoin season hit, everything blew up. I'm just not that convinced this cycle will be the same. I think a lot of the mid caps and small caps may struggle. I think some of them, if they do a good job in marketing and they pick a good niche to latch onto, like for example, let's say AI, or I don't know, the memes. There's certain niches I think would be very hot. And when we do have that money flowing in once again, and there's like good momentum and so forth, and retail's FOMOing, I do think some of them will do well. Okay, some of them will explode and they become a big cap for the next cycle. But I think vast majority are not going to do well because there's so many projects. The market's diluted, right? And there's only so much money that can move around. So I don't know about everything else. That's why me primarily, if you notice my content, has been mostly covering just the big caps and of course Bitcoin. I haven't been gem hunting. I haven't really even been looking at the memes all that much recently because I just don't know. I don't know if they're going to do all that well like before. In prior cycles, it was definitely worth it to find a gem because those gems could go up 100x, 1,000x, even more, 10,000x. A lot of the memes went up like that much. But now it's pretty apparent that everyone's concentrating on Bitcoin. The money's there. Retail is shaky. Retail's not FOMOing right now. So whether everything goes up or only a few, I choose the few. So that's kind of my answer to you. I think it's safe, a lot safer to stick with the big caps and they'll still give you the multiple returns versus Bitcoin. So you still make money with it. Obviously, you're still going to make money with Bitcoin. But if you're investing in all these other smaller ones, if they're promising and they have a good community and they do great marketing, they can still do very well. But you have to be careful because there are so many projects that are promising so many things. And a lot of them are actually really great, but no one ever hears about it. They get no traction and then they go nowhere. So hopefully that helps, Michael. All right, guys, that's it for today's Ask George. I covered 3 questions. I think these are very, or at least 2 of them are very relevant. And a lot of you guys have been asking about it, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you want to ask your own question, go to CryptosRUs.com. On the front page, you'll see an Ask George button. Go ahead and click that and submit your videos for next week. All right, I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.